Hello everybody, my name is CraigBennettII, and today I'm going to be doing another Star Citizen video, and we'll be taking a look at the Cutty Black. Now, as far as things goes, I'm going to be taking a look at the inside of this before we go ahead and take a look at the outside. And the inside of this is actually quite interesting. So if we take a look at this as a pilot would when they're coming in and flying the thing, is the biggest thing that you want when you're flying a ship, either a spaceship or airplane or whatever, is maximum viewability. Because the fact is obviously there's other things a little bit more important, especially when it comes to spaceships, but you want something with max viewability because that means that the more you can view, the better the data you got to react and do what you need to do. And as you can see here, the interesting thing here is it lifts the seat up, which means that it gives the person even more viewability than what it would is if it was on the ground level. And it is quite interesting. I've never really seen anything like that before. And also the co-pilot seats obviously does that, lifts it up a little bit higher. But with that, the overall of it, one thing I will mention is because it does lift up quite high in the air, it does make it slightly unsafe, and it's one of those things that the more mechanical things you got going on, more movements, more motors and all the other stuff, just for something simple as trying to fly a ship, what the fact is the more chances something like that will go wrong and you can get problems. Now, for this game wise, because this is not really an explorer ship, it's probably going to be close to some type of station. That's probably less of a problem, but it could become a problem type of thing. Whereas a explorer ship, I'll say that that's a horrible design because you'd probably be very far, maybe months or years out, and you obviously won't want something like that. The thing to be stuck in midair and you have to climb, or the thing you're getting that view and that's it type of situation. So another thing that's interesting, because this is a security ship, you do need to have weapons lockers and whatnot. It's very exposed, and you got turret and all the other stuff in between. But you do have a place for the pilot and the co-pilot to sleep. Plus, you got a back area for storage of the vehicle and a few other things. Other Cutty ships, they will be like an ambulance type of situation. Same type of layout, but different things. And it'll be some type of ambulance situation, and also some others will be bounty hunting, prisoner transport. We have that in there. So let's take a look at the outside of the Cutty, and how aerodynamic is it? Is it worthwhile to note? Now, as far as things goes, if you are familiar with my other videos, you know that I take a look at energy. Where does the energy go? And what you'll find is in pretty much everything, the energy against the atmosphere from the ship, it goes from the front to the back, so track, and then the thrusters, it creates momentum forward energy, which means you got energy going from the back to the front. So the energy meets somewhere in the middle, and that's where it needs to be the most strongest. Where in the exact middle, who knows? It depends on the levels of energy. Now, as far as things goes, for those who don't know, energy is pretty much like everything else. Believe it or not, water can travel up, or actually sometimes does travel uphill, if it has less of a resistance to do that versus going downhill. So with that, energy tends to travel along the wings, the skin of the aircraft as much as possible. Obviously, it can go into the core of it to some point, but it tends to travel along the skin of the aircraft as much as it can. Probably a small fraction. I can't give you an exact number, but a certain percentage does go into the core. The core seems to be pretty stable into itself, so I won't really worry about that. But if we take a look at the spots, where can the energy bleed off to? So if you take a look at that, that one of the biggest areas is maybe the guns. And what I found out was interesting is the guns, at least for this particular one and the one on the other side, it's actually not connected. It's floating. Now, some people might say that this is a glitch. This is probably definitely a glitch. Other people might say this might actually be a feature, because think about it. So you have wind resistance, and it can actually go over here. And it's probably not going to make much of a difference, but it can go over here. And as long as you got some type of magnetic thing, which keeps the gun there, it floats, but it's there, and it keeps it with the ship as much as possible. So you have a tense magnetic in the middle, which pushes the gun away, but it's some on the sides, which keeps it pretty much locked in place. But so it's floating, but it's staying at a very exact distance. As long as that's the case, it could theoretically work, at least from what I know. Maybe testing might find something different, because I've never seen this before in the real world. I never tested it in the real world. I'd be actually quite interested to do that. But theoretically, that means that you won't have the problem. Like, say, for example, the energy going from the front goes up around the skin. It cannot go and use these as wick points to bleed off and break things off, because there's nothing for it attached to. And if you do that for that effect, that is extremely smart if it works. Because the thing that I'll be questioning if it works part is, will the energy going from the front of this to the back, will it be enough to, you know, will it pull it off, and or will the magnetics be enough to keep it in place type of situation? And that's something that I would be interested in seeing if that is possible in the real world. Now, of course, you know, with limited budget, I can't really do much testing on that side. And I do have a Patreon, by the way, so feel free to donate there. So as far as that goes, that's quite interesting that it doesn't have too many areas that energy can cause a lot of problems in. In the front to back, back front situation, it seems to be fine in this particular ship. Now that leads me to the second thing I take a look at. It is liquids, gases, and solids. Specifically, if a liquid goes into a small crevice and it sits there, if it freezes, then it can crack stuff, maybe blow out parts. Turns into gas, gas expands. It can blow out parts, you know, just like a pressure cooker blows up. Or if you want to take a look at the freezing part, throw a soda can in the freezer or a glass ball full of water and just close it and let it freeze. Make sure it's filled to the rim and see what happens, and you'll find that you got a mess to clean up, pretty bad mess. So with that, is there a lot of problems with that? And surprisingly, no. Now you might say, what about areas like the doors? You can put heaters there, which will keep it at least stable until you're able to get to certain areas. That can vacuum the stuff off, and you can probably put stuff on the ship to vacuum the seals off automatically. But I'm not really that concerned about the doors, because you can put heaters there and just run with that. The areas that I would actually be kind of more interested in figuring out is the vents around the engines. But again, with there, it's you're dealing with an area that gets hot and mostly stable into itself to some degree, but also the guns in themselves. Now again, they probably are going to be fine, because they're probably meant for extremes, so just note that. Areas like this is something I would also be looking into, but it highly depends on how it's designed. It could, in theory, be that has a heater behind it, but my question is, why have that there at all? So that's something to note. Maybe it's an access panel and it really doesn't have anything there. It's just meant to be, and I've seen this a few times in some places where if you take a look at this, it kind of looks like that maybe is a hinge, like a piano hinge, and you take a look at the other side, there's nothing there, and maybe if you pop it open, you can have access. It's like an access panel, and it's sealed off anyways. So that's something that's possible right there. But assuming that that is a vent area, and it's real vent, then that's probably one of the only areas that I would definitely take a look at and say this needs to be fixed before anyone buys the ship. Obviously, some areas like the panels, I would take a close look at that. So, I mean, like if a company came up to me and say, do we need to buy this? Or we want to buy 1,000. Is this a good ship? That's definitely one of the areas I'll be taking a closer look at. On top of figuring out what type of metals is holding the guns onto the ship, and also what type of metals is on the ship in itself, to figure out these wing things are not going to rip off due to the pilot doing something weird. Now I'm just going to loop the video because, as you might have seen there, got a 300, it's a disconnect error. Now, one thing I want to mention with this is it should be fine going through the atmosphere, so atmosphere, space, space, atmosphere type of situation, but making sharp turns and stuff like this, I don't think this is the ship for that. I think it's going to be slow turns, at least, you know, decent speed turns, but still slow turns, not like a fighter jet, so it's not going to be anything quick as a fighter jet, but still slow turns, but it's able to get to whatever spot. And unless if you got some massive push from those engines, I don't think you're going to find a lot of abilities for the thing to actually launch you in space extremely quickly. That's something to note into itself. Now, as far as that goes, if you do have any more questions, anything else, then feel free to leave that in the comment section and leave a like, subscribe, share. Also, let me know what ships you want me to take a look at in the future, what games that you want me to take a look at, specifically what ships in whatever game that you want me to take a look at, and I'll take a look at that in the future. Feel free to check out Patreon, check out all my other stuff, and I hope you have a great day.